Welcome back, everybody, to Inside Texas Basketball. I'm your host, Evan Veith, as always, joined by Keenan Womack. On this beautiful Wednesday here in Austin, I will say, Keenan, I didn't really have the best Monday. Let me tell you, as a DC sports fan, what my Monday consisted of. First of all, the Nats loss, which we knew that's going to happen, but a loss is a loss. Then my Capitals go down 3-1 in their series to the Hurricanes. It wasn't close.
Nope.
And then, the one saving grace for the Washington Wizards is this draft. If they're in the top two, they have a future. If not, we got 5 more years of rebuilding. And guess what? Nico Harrison calls him up, says, "Hey, Adam Silver, I got Luka. Luka's in LA. It's time. Give us something." They got another one. They got another generational guy. And then the Spurs get another one because they love Texas. And the Wizards dropped to 6. It was a terrible day, Keenan. I hope you're feeling a little better. I know you're feeling a little better about these combine results.
I'm pretty happy with what happened for my Mavericks. I think that was a little act of God, maybe. I do want to say congratulations to our own Evan Veith for graduating from the University of Texas last week. That's awesome, man. Huge accomplishment. I did the same thing. It took me a couple extra years, but we got out of there. Just want to say congrats, man. That's a huge deal, and just really, really happy for you, brother.
I appreciate it, man. And we're going to talk about someone who probably won't get that UT degree here. Trey Johnson, one and done, and for good reason after what's been going on in this NBA Combine. I know not everyone is as tuned into the NBA Combine as maybe the NFL or other sports, but it's still pretty notable because, of course, this is a game of size and speed and how well you can move, how long your arms are, really, which is a big thing with Trey Johnson's selling point. He goes to the Combine, measures in not at 6'6". He was measured at Texas. He's 6'4" 3/4", which is still pretty decent shooting guard size. 190 pounds, but 6'10" and a fourth wingspan with an 8'5" standing reach. That is awesome measurables for a shooting guard. That wingspan makes him easy to play on defense, hard to block his shots. It's just such a good measurement to come in for a guy who's then ended up shooting 68% on his jumpers at the Combine. He's really helped his stock, made himself look like a real safe pick in the future. Texas got a good one last year, and he's unfortunately going to be one of the first 10 guys' names called on when the draft is.
Yeah, no question, man. I think it's really important that we note, like you were saying, in these situations, wingspan is typically a lot more important. It's nice when you're 6'7", 6'8", or whatever, but Trey is about 6'5", pretty much. But that 6'10" wingspan, man, that adds so much value to his draft stock. Just the fact that he has those long arms. He has the tools to be a good defender. Was he a good defender last year? Not particularly, but a lot of that was due to the fact that he expended so much energy on the offensive end, getting to his spots, initiating offense, doing everything for a team that frankly had a bad scheme and didn't have pieces that fit well together. And they didn't really have a point guard and they didn't really have a center. And it was just kind of a mess of a roster. They had decent players like Mark and Kaluma came along and they did some nice things, but overall, it's really it was his team, and it was up to him to pretty much make everything happen on the offensive end. So, yeah, it's a really good deal. I don't know if you have the Gavoni quote about what he was doing at the. I wrote about it yesterday in my piece that I posted on Inside Texas. Go check it out. It was a little bit about the pre-draft and how the lottery could affect where he ends up, kind of.
Yeah,
and we're gonna get to that in a second, but. Yeah, man, he's been an absolute machine. I believe he was 3rd or 4th or 5th, top 5 or something in off the dribble shooting drills. I think he was like 22 for 30 or something like that. And at that size, that is just fantastic to have. He was elite in the 3-point shooting drill, which is mostly spot up stuff. But still, I mean, he's going to be in a position where he's not going to have to create all of his own offense. I mean, depending on where he lands, of course. But there's going to be more talented guys around him than he had at Texas last year, just by virtue of being in the NBA. There's going to be guys that can help him create offense for himself, that he doesn't have to do everything all the time.
Yeah, and I think his draft profile at first was just this pure scoring player. He lit up the SEC. He was one of the best scorers, if not the best scorer in the SEC last year. And that could probably translate into the NBA. He's got a great handle of like the right side of the court, of course, an efficient shooter. The problems were definitely, can he get to the rim? Can he be a plus defender? Can he do this against NBA level athletes? And could he work as a number 2 even in a system? Is that possible? I think him hitting a 37.5-inch vertical, him having those long arms, that vertical is going to help a lot in protecting what he can be as a finisher at the rim.
Yep.
Can he get up and contest against these 7-2 big lockdown defenders? And then on the wing, like no one's asking him to be the lockdown. No one's asking him to be the guard your number one player on the other team. But can he be in passing lanes? Can he at least move off ball? Is there an ability to at least play a little bit against the top player if he gets switched on? I think it seems like this combine's helped answer some of these questions that maybe weren't answered at Texas. And it's just it's really good for Johnson that he's doing so well and really standing out. It seems like him and maybe I think it was Lendenberg who's like a Michigan, maybe joining Michigan, maybe not, turning into some real good draft combine results.
Yeah, Lendenberg's going pro. I've been saying that even since he committed to Michigan. I think he's basically a top 20 player in this draft. I think he's an absolute freak show. I mean, it should be important to note too, like how this is going to go as far as like how did this lottery affect where Trey's going to land, right? Mm-hmm. So the top 2 picks are obvious, right? It's going to be Cooper Flagg 1 to Dallas. And it's going to be Dylan Harper 2 if the Spurs keep the pick and don't trade it for something. Whoever gets the number 2 pick's taking Dylan Harper.
Yep.
Right? Like he is a Cade light type of player. He can't shoot the way Cade can, at least not yet, but a giant guard that can pressure the rim the way that he can is super valuable in the NBA. He's also gigantic. He's like 6'5", 220 or something. He's built like a defensive end almost, or an outside linebacker or something. Like he's built like Isaiah Simmons, that like combo safety linebacker. Like he's a tank, right? Then you get to pick 3. I think Ace Bailey's going here. I just, a lot of mock drafts had Trey going 3rd. Vicini from The Athletic had him going 3rd. That's a guy I trust a lot. And I just don't see the Sixers have so much in their backcourt already, right?
Yeah.
You have Jared McCain, you have Tyrese Maxey, and now you have Quentin Grimes too, who the Mavericks traded for some reason. I don't understand anything that Nico has done for the last 3 months, but whatever.
You got Flagg. That's all that matters.
Yeah, that's where I'm at this point. Just whatever, man. I think you really start seeing the options open up when you get to pick 4, and that's Charlotte. Now, do they have Brandon Miller already? Yes. But, I think Trey could play next to Brandon Miller, possibly, right? Like, I think who they'll probably take is VJ Edgecombe out of Baylor.
Yeah, he's another great combine.
He's a freak show athlete. He's not an Amen Thompson athlete because nobody is in the league right now. I think he's the best athlete maybe in the world. I'm not even kidding. Just physicality, balance, ability to finish through contacts, just like explosive as hell, like just complete freak. VJ has a little bit of that though, right? And VJ's shooting improved drastically over the second half of the season. And so I could see him going there. But when you get to pick 5 and 6, I think that's where Trey Johnson really starts to make a lot of sense for the Jazz. The Wizards, your poor Wizards, who I wrote about earlier today for another site. I understand the pain. I'm sorry. Kind of sorry. I wanted Flagg, so sorry, kind of.
Sorry, not.
Sorry, not sorry. I think that the Wizards, more than anything, they need some kind of spark, man, on offense. They were the last ranked team in offensive rating in the NBA last season. I think they averaged like 103 points per 100 possessions. It was not great. I'm sure you watched that. I'm not trying to.
I watched all 82 of those games for sure.
That's a tough proposition, my friend. I think he makes a lot of sense in Washington, right? And the thing about Washington, too, is they have a young core of guys that I think are pretty talented, right? Sarr was super inefficient last year, but he showed a lot of signs of, like, maybe he can play the 5 because he came in, everybody thought he was kind of a 4, but played mostly at the 5 this season. I think I saw in Sports Reference he was like 90% or something of his reps were at the center position. So, you just need some kind of offensive spark plug, and I think Trey Johnson provides that pretty easily. As far as the Jazz go as well, now they have Keontae George and they have Colin Sexton. And Collier. But they don't have like a shooting wing. Like, maybe this makes up for them missing on Cody Williams so badly, right? Like you think, I mean, I missed on Cody Williams. I thought he was going to be great just because he was so efficient in college. But, he doesn't really do much. I think Trey makes a lot of sense in Utah. And I think he makes a lot of sense in Washington. I don't see him falling past either of those picks. And I think he's going to end up in one of those 2 places, which, It's not great. It's not a great situation for him to go into. What it is, though, it's an opportunity for him to prove that he's the pick he can be, right? Like, he's a guy that can immediately come in, probably average 15 points a game his rookie season, I would imagine, on decent splits, at least. And especially on a team like Washington, where they really need offense. I think he makes a lot of sense there. And same thing for Utah, right? Like, Utah has decent backcourt play, especially at the point guard position. Keontae George has played some shooting guard. They have Jordan Clarkson, but Trey is just a higher ceiling guy than anybody they have at the shooting guard position in Utah. So I'd be really surprised if he fell past those picks. If so, he'll definitely go 7 or 8 to either New Orleans or Brooklyn. Brooklyn would make a lot of sense too. They struggled really badly offensively this year. I know they have Cam Thomas, but Trey's a lot bigger than Cam Thomas. I just think he could provide a lot better defense than Cam Thomas can, because Cam Thomas is like a notoriously bad defender. And again, I'm not saying Trey's a lockdown guy, but I mean, he has the tools to be at least an effective defender, and he does have motor too. He gives a lot of effort, so I think that energy could translate to decent defensive possessions.
Yeah, I think it's great. Spot on analysis. I don't even have much to add because, I do think that the 1-2 is extremely chalk, and then even the 3 with Bailey measuring less than, he was 6'10" at Rutgers, now he's 6'8". But there's just no way Philly is taking a backcourt player when that kind of high ceiling forwards is there. And then, I think Edgecombe is the fit for Charlotte, because if they're going to stick with LaMelo Ball, then you kind of have to have him and Miller be your 1-2.
Yeah,
roll with that being what wins whatever you want to win, win 40 games, hopefully, in Charlotte.
Get the 7 seed.
And I do see Edgecombe as probably a slightly higher prospect than Johnson, but the real floor I'd see with Trey is maybe pick 9. Like, I think if the Raptors are there, they would take him.
Yeah.
He would be a very good fit there. And I could see, like, hey, Brooklyn, we already have a shooting guard at New Orleans. Okay, maybe, we've got a lot of wings. We need a point guard or a center. Well, they don't really need a center anymore. But some of these teams could talk themselves out of it. But, I think that 5-6 spot, it would be a little bit unfortunate for Johnson not to go to a team that's competing early on in his career, or would give him the chance to be, the 7th man on an actual real competitive team. Someone that even like that, I would say the Pelicans are going to at least be shooting to get to the play in next year if Williamson is healthy. That would have been a fun spot. But at least if you go to Utah, like you said, you're getting in a rotation where you have 3 point guards, and then Jordan Clarkson's kind of this combo. I guess you can kind of call Sexton that too, but he's short as well. He's a 6'2" guard. So you do need a shooting guard, or at least some sort of wing that will actually give you a little bit of size, give you a little bit of efficiency out there. Marketing seems to be staying there. Kessler, the same thing. It's actually a pretty decent young core when you do that. It's just it lacks that true star power. But I think what Johnson gives a team like Washington or Utah is that he does have the ceiling to be a 25-plus point per game scorer that not a lot of players in any draft have. You just don't see that very often from a player who's not a top 4 pick. So him being potentially a number 1 scorer on a playoff team is very enticing for teams like that, where obviously Washington's had some good picks. I think Koulibaly's going to have to be a great player. Harrington is playing above his draft slot. Sarr was a top 2 pick. He's not very efficient offensively, but can play defense. So you have those 3 guys that you're relying on a lot. And then after that, it's kind of like, hey, let's try to find a piece or two. Let's get Trey Johnson in there and have him shoot the ball 20 times a game and see what happens. Like that would be a great fit for him as a fan. And I think that would work well for what both sides want, which is Johnson getting a chance to play and really hit the ground running as a scorer. And also Wizards, they need a spark like that, like you were saying.
Yeah, I really, the more I think about it, the more I think Utah's probably where he lands.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he probably ends up as a player on the Jazz. But, for 6, real quick aside, I think you guys are going to take the local kid, Derek Queen.
I wouldn't. That would be fun.
That would make a lot of sense for you guys to take him. As that rebounding, he can play the 4. I think he can play the 4. Have Sarr play the 5. Sarr can provide the rim protection. A lot of passing
from him.
Exactly, man. He's kind of like a Nas Reed type of player. So,
it's a good comp.
But
I'd like Queen. Him and Carrington are friends from the Baltimore area. So
wouldn't surprise me.
So that would be a pretty fun just culture fit for the Wizards. I don't know how much Wizards y'all can handle in this podcast, so we're going to transition over. First, we're going to hear from our sponsor, Luxe.
This video is brought to you by Luxe Kitchen and Bath. Luxe has been offering high-end kitchen and bathroom remodels for 3 generations throughout the greater Austin area. With 5-star review after 5-star review on Google and Facebook, and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, you can put your faith in Luxe Kitchen and Bath's award-winning designers and skilled craftspeople to bring to life that dream vision of your special home. But that's not all. Luxe's all-star team provides full remodels, large additions, and even commercial build-outs as well. So call Luxe Kitchen and Bath at 833-358-LUXE today. Or visit luxekitchenbath.com to discover where quality meets luxury and begin the process of transforming your home. Get a free quote today by calling 833-358-LUXE. That's Luxe. Or by visiting luxekitchenbath.com. Link in the description.
Thank you again, LC and Lux, and you all have heard way more Washington Wizards content than you probably ever thought you'd need to hear on a Texas podcast. So we're going to transition back to the Longhorns here. Still pretty quiet portal cycle. We're obviously talking about players abroad. We want to get Evan Boisdor. That's a big name that's coming around for Texas. But overall, not really a lot of rumblings. Keenan, not much going on. There is, the roster's been set mostly, but there's still going to be some more targets. So I think as we go kind of later in the show, we're going to talk a bit about what this team needs and what's gonna happen as they get to make the next 2-3 last guys in, if that's either portal or abroad. So Keenan, just starting out, and Connor may pull up the spreadsheet here. What do you see as still the number one thing that Texas is going to be looking after for the next bit of players and the next bit of talent they bring into this team?
Yeah, so shout out Max Barr, College Basketball, for putting this graphic together. If you want to find this yourself, go to his Twitter page. It's pinned on his page, I believe. The SEC one is. Yeah, man. So obviously front court is pretty packed, right? We got Vokititis, we got Dalen Swain, we got Lucina Traore, we got John Clark, we got Nick Cody. Your wings right now looks like Cam Heide, Simeon Wilcher, who as good as this graphic is, I think Heide will probably maybe start over Wilcher. Yeah. I'm not quite sure how that will go. They just need some kind of off the catch shooting. That's something Heide provides. Wilcher was not an efficient scorer last year, but he's a high motor guy, and he's a very good culture fit. Apparently, according to the St. John's writers I talked to, they wanted to hold on to him, but were unable to because he wanted a bigger role. Your backcourt is still Jordan Pope, Tremont Mark, and Kendall Weaver. That has not changed yet. Yeah, you just need more firepower at the guard spot, right? And whether that is some kind of scoring guard or whether that is some kind of, guard that can attack the basket off the dribble, whether he's a shooter, whether he's a slasher, kind of, you need something like that. Because that was a big problem with the roster last year, right? So they didn't really have a slashing threat. They didn't have a guy that could take the ball from the perimeter and attack the basket. Now, Heide can do that to an extent as well. And even in some sense, Dalen Swain can kind of do that, but he's more of a 4, right? So got to get some shooting. I think that's definitely the most important thing at this point is you got to get shooting. And, when you get shooting, it really makes it a lot easier to slash, right? When you have better spacing, there's just literally, it's a physics thing. There's just more room for you to attack the basket. There's more room for you to make moves off the dribble. And when you can shoot from the perimeter, it gives you the ability to attack closeouts. And that is super important in this Miller offense. It's all about off-ball move. When you can attack those closeouts, you can create off-ball disadvantages when people are scrambling to guard the guy who's driving the basket. So I think that obviously shooting has to be the priority in the portal. That's something a guy like Boisdor can provide. He wasn't highly efficient from 3 last year, but he was taking 9 of them a game. So he was shooting about 32%. So I think, given he has to do less on this roster, I could imagine if he were to end up a Texas Longhorn that he would be very helpful in that aspect of things as far as running the offense goes.
Yeah, and you can see just from this graphic alone and just projecting forward, about 7 of the players on this Texas roster out of 10 could play the 3 or the 4 in a pinch. Even you can run double bigs with Traore, Vokititis, Clark, that trio. You can have someone like Weaver and Wilcher play that small forward spot like Wilcher's written in here, and that's fine. And that's your front court and that's your wings all sorted out. But when it actually comes to just true guards, which college basketball offer, you're playing 3 guards anyway.
Yeah,
it's Wilcher's probably a shooting guard, small forward hybrid. Weaver, a similar thing because he doesn't shoot as well. Mark, a combo guard, and then Pope a point guard, combo guard, kind of more point, less shooting. But you really don't have a lot of depth there and a lot of youth either. And that's one thing where I don't think any team in the SEC has their 15 slots filled up I think what you're going to see is a lot of teams that they get 13 players, and they're kind of like, let's find some walk-ons for the last two, or some guys that just aren't NIL factory type of people.
Yeah,
You're not going to pay for these people. So Texas would still have 3 spots in that case, and you have youth that was Vokietitis as a sophomore. You have Cody and Clark. Wiltshire's got another year. Heidi's got another year. But once you get into the guard room, it's, where is the future of this? You're going to have to hit the portal no matter what next year, obviously, because you've got these grads and these seniors. But what Boydur would have, and any other person who's either a recruit or portal, is like, let's get someone in here who's going to be here for 2 or 3 more years. I think that would be. I don't know. Is Nick Lewis, has he committed anywhere since what happened with Miller and Xavier? Because as far as I know, Nick Lewis from Gonzaga in DC is still available. Was a former Xavier commit. I would like to see a point guard get brought in to learn behind Pope and Mark, and a true passing creation point guard, someone who's going to drive the lane and find kickouts or find the lob, because Vokietitis is going to be a good lob threat. I think Clark and Cody could be similar. So I'm personally looking for someone outside of shooting. Just has to be something, because it's just Heidi. But that's also what I'd like to see, is a young guard who's going to develop into the system and become Miller's guy in a year or 2.
No, Nick Lewis already committed to Virginia Commonwealth, VCU.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, out of Gonzaga High School. So yeah, I think that was, when was that? It was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think he committed, maybe something like that. Yeah, something like that, 3 weeks ago. Yeah, so he was a guy that Texas wanted, but I don't think it was like they weren't killing themselves maybe to get him. He's a good player. I just don't know, even as a young guy, how much he would have played next season. I mean, maybe just based on the lack of depth, he does play a lot. But yeah, he's a VCU commit. Yeah, I mean, there's the portal is thinning out at the guard spot. I think it's fair to say that. Whether they go with somebody who's just, and even guys like, there's guys like Kerwin Walton, who I think he committed to Auburn out of Tech, just spot up shooters, right? I mean, Heidi's kind of your best spot up shooter right now. And God bless the kid. I just, I think you need more shooting than just him. And he didn't have a ton of attempts last year, right? Like, he played a decent amount over the last third of the season, according to the Purdue people I talked to, and he was a guy they really wanted to hold on to, but just with Trey Kaufman-Renn on that roster, he just wasn't going to get the playing time he wanted. Yeah, they really just need to lock in and get some. I mean, at this point, you're not going to get not that PJ Haggerty was ever considered. That was a rumor pushed by his agent.
You're not getting your star, though.
Yeah, you're not going to bring in a $3 million guard at this point in time, but it is a position that's super important in college basketball, man. I mean, obviously, it's important in any form of basketball, but college basketball, a lot of it is your guard play, man. In the NBA, I think it's more about your wing play, and in college, I think it's a lot about your guard play. But we're watching the NBA playoffs right now. We're seeing the impact a point guard can have. Look at what Tyrese Halliburton's been doing. Look at SGA. Look at these guys, Brunson, exactly. So, this roster is very much a work in progress at this point, and it's it's mid-May. There's a few more spots to fill. There's about 4 more spots, given that the NCAA allowed for a 15 scholarship limit now for these Texas teams. It's just, we will see who they end up getting, but it's definitely a position of need, and it's definitely something that they have to be scrambling for at this point. I mean, I know that they've reached out to some people. I don't want to say the names because, like I said before, I have to double confirm these things before I just throw names out there. But yeah, man, I mean, they need to make some moves, I think, pretty quickly. But it's not that they're not out there recruiting guys. And again, I really do like their odds with Boydur, who I've connected with on social media a couple of times, and he would be a huge get. And shout out to one of my friends, Nick Kalinowski, who is a draft analyst and a data analyst, and he put out an entire ranking of every international player that is being recruited by any college. You can find that on his Twitter account. And Boydur was in the top 4th of those players, and there's 1,200 guys. So, he's a really valuable player if they are able to land him. I think that would be a huge benefit to them, especially considering, he was looking at Florida, but with Florida's, I mean, they're about to bring in Boogie Fland, I think. They already brought in Xavier Lee. Their backcourt is completely stacked. So I think it's one of those things where I don't know how much playing time he would get if he went to the Gators,
Yeah, I think Texas is a pretty appealing spot for pretty much any young guard who wants to come around because you see your immediate path to playing time if you just look at next year because in theory Heidi Wilcher maybe you're losing Swain but Heidi Wilcher Clark Cody Vokia Titus it's a nice little core to bring around but it's mostly forwards there. Maybe
Yeah.
Wilcher can develop a shot and become a shooting guard and he can handle the ball a little bit but that's not the long term one is to have someone like Simeon Wilcher be your number one guy in the future. So someone that's players that can play around the perimeter, shooters, of course, backcourt guys. It's a pretty simple formula for Texas. It's going to be slow at this time of the year. It's just what do you have to expect from May in any kind of sport right now. But yeah, Texas basketball is still working, and that's the important part behind the scenes that Coach Miller is at least doing his due diligence in 2026, which we talked about last episode, had a lot of guys that are very intriguing. That is going to be a recruiting class that you're going to see a lot of. Keenan, I don't know if we have that much more to talk about, unfortunately, on the news front here at Texas. Any kind of last ideas about the rest of the roster building? How many more guys are going to take on?
Yeah, I mean, you would think it's probably going to be 3 more guards, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Especially with the Vincent transfer, that opens up another scholarship spot. So, did he go to A&M? Is that where he went?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I think Frank Haith went to A&M too. So interesting. I actually kind of like what they're building there slowly, but I really like I think they're
Can't say that, Keenan.
I know. I have to be honest though, Evan. That's what this is about, bro. No, I think this roster is going to come along maybe in the next month or so. We'll have more information on portal targets and stuff. It's just been very slow. They've offered some high school kids recently, but nobody who would come in next season, right? So it's still kind of slow right now on the portal front, but definitely the second we hear anything, it'll be on IT. So go ahead and check that out.
Yeah, and just Keenan's doing my job for me. I think that's going to wrap it up for us. But of course, Inside Texas is where you need to go for all this information. Everything you're hearing here, you can get your eyes on firsthand and first of anyone over at Inside Texas. Of course, football's got stuff going on. Their portal's closed up, but we're always going to have commits. There's a new commit today that kind of put some logjam into our show. But football, baseball is getting real close to the postseason. Of course, basketball and Inside Texas has just got it all. Excuse me. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, we'll be back next week. You'll see me on Monday as well. And thank you for the shout out at the start, Keenan. Hope you have a great rest of your week.
You too, brother.